Okay. So we'll give people a few more minutes just to kind of see who's pouring in tonight. This
Okay.
might be a sparsely attended class, but I'm glad you could make it. So tell me, do you have much experience with meditation?
I listen to a lot of guided meditation at nighttime because I suffer from anxiety and panic attacks and depression, and I practice yoga a couple times a week.
Okay, great,
So the guided meditation helps a lot.
wonderful. Have you worked with tapping at all? EFT tapping? Do you know what that is?
No, I don't.
Maybe I'll teach you a little bit of that tonight, along with the meditation. It's really good for anxiety, like fantastic for anxiety.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll just get started, and as people come in, they come in.
Okay.
So I'm going to put everybody on mute. When you have questions, you're welcome to unmute yourself, okay? And you can just ask, and it's totally fine. But I'm going to put people on mute just because otherwise dogs start barking or things like that. Uh,
Okay. Can I put the phone down and listen to you?
oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, Participants, mute all. There we go. Okay. All right, so first, let's just let the dust settle from our day a little bit. We're gonna do a brief little intro on how we meditate in this class. But first, just let yourself kind of sink into the room that you're currently in. So feel your bones become nice and heavy in your chair or whatever you're sitting on. And let your eyes just kind of spread their vision out to take in the periphery of the room. And just really be where you are for a few moments while you just breathe naturally. Usually, when people do this, they realize that a part of them is not in the room. A part of them is still at their job or having some issue with someone earlier in their day or planning their dinner, or bring it all here. Pull it all into this moment and just center yourself strongly and comfortably in this moment. Nothing to figure out, nothing to achieve, nothing to understand. Just be present right here, right now. And now I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about what meditation is and how we practice this here. For starters, I want to say that meditation is not a technique. Meditation is a state of consciousness. And it's a state of consciousness where the mind is quiet. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the brain has stopped saying things. It really means that you have stopped identifying and playing with the things your brain is telling you. So all of that chatter that happens, that comes from your personality, you stop playing with it. And you just center your focus on some chosen point. In this case, we use the breath. So you focus yourself on the breath. And when the mind comes in to take you away from the breath, you just gently return, gently return, gently return, over and over again to the breath. Now, why do we do this? We do this because you are something much bigger than your personality. You are a vast, comfortable consciousness. But most people can't access that space inside themselves. And the reason they can't is because they are constantly staring at a mind that is chewing and mulling over a million different stories. And so these stories and this mind chatter and all of that just creates this veil that keeps you from the rest of yourself. Your personality is only the tip of the iceberg of what you actually are. And what you are starts to come clear when you can take your attention off of the dictates of your mind and instead just place it on some sustained point of focus, some choice that you make of how you're going to use your mind. When that happens, at first the mind fights a little bit. And the idea is just to gently abide with your chosen point of focus. But as you do that, what fuels that mind chatter is your attention. So as you remove your attention from it, you slowly start to starve it out a little bit. And if you can just stay with your chosen point of focus, the mind will begin to quiet down. At first, you'll get these little gaps of nothing space. And then over time, you can expand those gaps and really be with the silence, really be with what you are when you stop describing everything to yourself with your mind. What's left when the personality stops babbling? That's what we're after here. In the beginning, it just looks like comfort and peace. But as you continue to work with it, it's a vast realm of self-discovery, but your real self, not your personality self. The part of you that was here before you even knew your own name. The part of you that was you before you even started collecting all of these life stories to center your identity around. And so the more you come to see that, the more your identity becomes bound to that larger part of yourself, that vast ocean of comfortable consciousness that you are. And then the mind, which is still there, just becomes a tool that you use to move through this world of mental things. So that's what meditation is about. And the way that we practice it here is very simple. First, we keep our eyes open. And the reason we do that is because you live with your eyes open. And so you want to learn how to make this a part of your life. So what we do is we just kind of take our eyes and we let them fall to some spot in front of us, either on the floor or on the table in front of you, just to kind of get them out of the way. Okay? Once you have your eyes just kind of anchored at some spot in front of you, you're going to keep your attention then high in your body, right up here around the forehead and the crown. Okay? And what that does is it actually activates glands that helps your body relax. It kind of energizes a system that is very relaxing in your body. And from there, we just begin to breathe. You breathe in, you breathe out, and nothing else. And that's where you give your focus. Now, in order to really do this, you have to do it with a sort of sense of wholeheartedness. You have to be really given to it because you've been listening to your mind for a long time. It's been telling you what to look at for a long time. And so you're just very used to doing what it asks you to do. In this moment, what you're going to do is you're going to shift to your breath. And when the mind comes in to make demands, you're not going to resist it. You're not going to push it away. You're not going to play with it. You're not going to do anything with it. You're just going to let it do its thing. Let the mind be the mind, and you be the watcher of your breath. For most people, the first 5 to 10 minutes of that might feel a little uncomfortable, a little bit of pressure, just because, your mind is upset about it. But if you stick with it, that feeling will subside, and you will find yourself abiding in a place of true comfort. And that comfort is actually like an intelligence that just slowly expands inside of you. It just opens you to the real parts of yourself that are not covered up by that veil of personal stories and mind chatter. So again, eyes open, just landed on the table in front of you or on the floor in front of you. You want to keep your spine a little straight. It helps just to keep it just a little straight, nothing too tight. Keep your attention high in your body, forehead and crown. Scratch that part of your body and just be aware of the feeling that remains there. That's all we're talking about. And then you're going to watch your breath. As you breathe in, you are right there with that inhale. You can feel your lungs expanding, feel the skin stretching, feel that little shift in energy in your body as the oxygen enters your system. And then as you exhale, you are right there with that exhale. You are riding it all the way down to the bottom of the breath. And then you flip back into the inhale and you're riding it all the way to the top, feeling everything expanding. And you're doing this in a way that is timeless. There's no rush. There's nowhere to get to, nothing to achieve, nothing you have to become. All you have to do is watch the breath. Now, one more thing to be aware of is that at the top of the breath, when you are transitioning from the inhale to the exhale, there's this little gap of nothing space. It's kind of like when an orchestra stops playing, like that moment right after the last note is played, but before the audience starts applauding, there's this little gap of silence. That exists in between the inhale and the exhale. It also exists at the bottom of your breath between the exhale and the inhale. And I want you just to notice it. Okay? Just be aware of it. Just have a healthy curiosity about it. Because that little space is one of the fastest entry points into the meditative state. When at the top of your breath you can see that nothing space, it'll start to kind of open a little bit. And you'll find that as you're riding the breath down, that silence kind of comes down with you. And then it deepens when you see the opening at the bottom of the breath. And then as you ride it up, that silence kind of rides with you. But if that becomes too complicated, just focus on your breath. Breathe in, breathe out, and nothing else. Are there any questions about that from anybody before I go any further, before we get started? Okay. So let's try this for a little while. Eyes open, attention at the forehead and crown, and just begin to breathe. Wholeheartedly watch the breath. And when the mind comes to take you away from it, don't play with it. Just gently return to the breath. Return to the breath. Return to the breath. You'll notice little tensions in your body. Just release them into the breath. Nothing to resist. Just breathe in, breathe out, and nothing else. It's okay to slow way down. Remember the last time you really were on a good vacation, where you just had space around you and there was nothing to hurry. And you could just be where you are and breathe because you were comfortable. Give yourself that now. Meditation is a vacation from your job. It's a vacation from your family. It's a vacation from you. Give yourself that. Just be with the simplicity of your breath. The timeless, patient simplicity of breathing in, breathing out, and nothing else. How much can you let go into the breath? What if in this moment you just really let everything go, but the breath? What if you really gave yourself that experience? That's good. Now, from this space, when you can be in this space, it's almost like you're a battery that's been plugged into a charger. You can start to recharge. And if you do it every day, you can really make some major changes in how you feel. It just energizes your whole system. Your ability to find clarity, your ability to understand others, your ability to choose what you look at and what you ignore. It yields personal power. So I want to talk to you a little bit about attention. In this class before, we've talked about how whatever you place your attention on, that's what expands in your life. That attention actually energizes images and causes them to expand. So whatever you look at is what you'll have more of. Consequently, most people always have what they fear most and what they desire most, because those are the things that they spend their time looking at. One of the things that you start to become aware of when you are starting to control where you place your attention is you start to notice the impact that certain images and people have on your body and mind. When you look at somebody who's in a bad mood, you can feel that bad mood, can't you? On some level, that bad mood plays out in your body a little bit, and you understand that that person is feeling bad. Or when another person is elated or very happy, and you give them your attention, there's something infectious about it. It has a way of playing out in our bodies. And I want you just to start noticing that. I remember when I first started noticing it, I was in my early 20s. And, I started noticing, I would look at people who had addictions, people who were kind of living from a state of self-gratification pleasure. And I would notice that would inspire feelings like that in me. I would notice somebody and it was, I thought that I was attracted to it. But what I came to realize was no, when you place your attention on something, it communicates with you. Those images have a feeling contained in them. And that feeling is picked up in the body. And you can feel that. And it affects your sense of self if you're not aware. You can find yourself going down all sorts of roads just by where you place your attention. Life is a slippery slope. One thing just kind of leads to another. And so you can expose yourself to all sorts of people's problems. And if you're not aware that they're their problems, if you think that feeling in yourself is yours, then you might act upon it. And then that solidifies it, and you end up kind of walking down these roads. This happens with anxiety a lot too. You know, you've got these ideas in your head of what might happen, or maybe something really bad did happen. And when those things are so able to trap your attention, you don't always have a very good separation between the thing you're looking at and your own sense of self. It all just kind of gets mixed up. It starts to affect your sleep. It starts to affect how you relate to other people. And in fact, you even start to spread the anxiety, right? Because when people look at you, they see someone who's anxious and tired. Again, I don't know, I just feel drawn to bring that to your attention tonight. That's something for you to be aware of. And meditation actually helps give you that awareness. One of the ways that meditation helps bring that awareness about is when you have sat and been really still and gotten to that place where you're comfortable and the mind is relatively silent, or at the very least it's doing, its own thing, and you are actually just focused where you need to be. When you relax that focus and start stepping back into your personal stories, you can actually feel those first things that come in. You give them your attention, and the difference in the feeling in your body when you look at them is so stark. It's just so starkly different compared to when you were in the meditative state. It's just something to notice. How much of your stuff is really yours, and how much of your stuff is really just you looking at someone else's stuff, thinking that there's something you need to do about it just because you're feeling it in your body, because you're looking at it. My guess is for most people, that's a lot of our problem. We're staring at other people going through whatever they're going through. And frankly, those people probably got there by staring at someone else's problems initially. And when you don't know the difference, when you don't know, oh, I'm just feeling this because this person is going through a rough time, and then just, go try and do something nice to help them, when instead it just becomes a stress and your own personal worry, then, you've taken that on. And what wasn't yours actually becomes yours. And it starts to have credence over how you live. It starts to alter the kinds of choices that you make in your life. It alters how much energy you have to get the things you want to get done for your life done. We all fall into this, right? We're living in a messy world. No one's immune to it, not even me. But if you can be aware of it, you can create a very healthy disconnect where you can become aware of what's yours and what is somebody else's. That shift is huge. That shift is freeing in a lot of ways. It doesn't mean you won't feel other people's stuff ever. You have to interact with people. But if you can get so clear on what is yours and what isn't, then when you're feeling those things, your mind won't start telling a story about it that weaves it into your personal life story. Sorry, guys. I forgot to put that on silent. Hang on. The mind is a weaver of stories. It's a weaver of webs. And so what it will do is you will take on somebody else's story. It'll start playing out inside of you. And a lot of times you'll say, oh, why do I feel so bad? And the mind is just an answer machine, right? So it'll give you an answer. It won't necessarily be the right answer. It's probably not going to tell you, oh, you're feeling somebody else because you spent, an hour with this person. What it'll do is it'll start pulling things from your past to try and provide answers to that question. And in doing so, you actually start weaving those other people's issues into your personal story. And after a while, you end up just with this huge conglomeration of many, many, many people's stories. In truth, the personality you have now is pretty much that, right? You started doing that very early in life, watching your parents, watching your teachers, taking on a lot of people's good qualities, a lot of their neuroses, a lot of their problems. And then you formed an identity around it, but you continue to collect things in that way. You need to be aware of what's yours and what isn't. Are there any questions about that before we move on? You can unmute yourself if you want.
So when you are in that space where you're feeling another person and you don't know it and it's kind of weaving into your experience, is it almost like you're taking on someone else's karma?
Yeah. So literal. So the question is when for those who, if it doesn't make it into the microphone, the question is when you weave that other person's experience into yours, are you taking on their karma? And the answer is absolutely yes. That's why most spiritual paths teach non-judgment. They teach, that basically you just have compassion, right? That, because, to even judge another person, you are actually integrating their stuff into yours. You're saying, oh, they're doing this and this and this, and I would never do that, So it becomes like, it all just becomes kind of mixed into your life story. But yes, you are literally taking on a piece of them that then is going to have to be played out on the screen of your life, unless you can become aware that you did it. And if you become aware that you did it, the way to undo it is actually quite simple. You just have to go into the meditative state. So spend some time focusing on your breath. And then you want to go back to that moment where you took that on, and you want to start, you could use tapping for that. You could use EFT tapping for that. And maybe we should do some of that tonight. So, there's a piece of this that happens because you are in the presence of a person, but there's also a piece of this that just happens because you made a connection with the person. And so that connection means that you can just sort of feel them, if they have very strong feelings and you're connected to them, especially if it's someone that's related to you or a mother-child situation, you feel those things. But, one of the best things you can do is in your mind to go back to that moment where you actually formed that connection and use EFT tapping to move that out of your system. I think that is the easiest way to do it. Before I learned that, what I used to do was something called recapitulation, which was basically going back through those moments in your life where there was a difficulty or difficult people. And what you would do is you would just very consciously see the entire moment in its detail, really be there, really feel it. And then, you would turn your head to the left. And as you moved to the right, you would inhale all of your energy back that you left behind in that moment. And then as you moved from the right to the left, you would exhale any aspects of that moment that you took on from another person that weren't yours. You were just returning them to the web of life. And that's a thing you can do. People will write down often every single event that ever happened to them in their life, every person, that they've ever had any experiences with, and they'll go one by one through those moments. And they will basically take their energy back that was theirs, release the energy they took on that wasn't theirs. But I think an even easier way to do it is through tapping. Why don't we try that now? So I'm going to, all right, so let me think of if I've got a good example of something that I've taken on by accident. Okay. Okay. So there is a woman in my life that has caused me very, very difficult time. She has taken a tremendous amount from me. This was someone I worked with. And what's funny is it like literally like I just have like this memory of her hair. Whenever I see anybody who has her hair or a similar hairstyle, a part of me actually jumps a little bit inside just because it's like, oh, I don't want to deal with this person. I don't want to deal with this person. So what I would do is I would probably go back to a moment where things were very difficult. A moment where maybe I realized that this person didn't have my best interests at heart, and I would create a setup statement. So I'm going to change these names just because we're recording this. So let's use the name Jessica. And I would start by tapping on the side of my hand right here. And I would say, even though Jessica is trying to steal my idea, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though she thinks she can take this from me, that she has that little respect for me, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. I'm okay and I am in control of my life. Even though Jessica thinks that she can just do this to me and nobody's going to know, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And I'm in control of my life. So that's the setup statement. What I did there was I took the problem and I used words that I actually have in my mind around that situation, things that are very personal to me. And I state them. So I state the problem, I acknowledge the problem in full. And then I provide some positive reinforcement. So that always has some form of I deeply and completely love and accept myself, and then maybe some other thing that balances the situation. Then I would go through the different tapping points. So there's one tapping point right here on the top of the head. They're right here at the edge of the eyebrows, right here at the edge of the eyes, right here under the eyes, right here in between the nose and the lip, right here in between the chin and the lip, like right in the crease, right here, just under the, so if you go down the sternum and out a little bit, just under the collarbones, I tap there with my fingers like this. And then on the side of the ribs, right there. And then you take a deep breath and you just kind of check in with your level of discomfort around it. And then you go back in. So why don't we try that now? Why don't you all pick some difficult moment in your life, something that your mind goes back to every now and again and makes you feel bad, makes you feel angry or guilty or victimized. Pick one really specific thing. And now I want you to really get in touch with what is so awful about that. What really upsets you about that? What are the words for that setup statement? Even though what? Okay, we're going to tap an event out of your system. Okay, so even though that thing happened, and so you're going to state whatever that looks like to you, whatever's so horrible about it, and then you're going to say, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. So I'm going to guide you through that. Tapping on the side of your hand, doesn't matter which hand. Repeat after me. Even though, and now say that thing that's just so awful. I deeply and completely love and accept myself as I am. Again, even though, and state that thing that is so awful. I deeply and completely love and accept myself exactly as I am. Really get to the worst part of it. We're going to do it again. Even though, state that thing. I deeply and completely love and accept myself exactly as I am. Now you're going to start tapping the top of your head and just say a few words that really gets you in touch with how horrible you feel about that. It's going to sound negative, but it's okay. Just say it out loud. What's so awful about it? Now come to the eyebrow point right here. I use 2 fingers there. State what's so awful about this. What makes it so awful? Get in touch with that feeling that you had. Now do that again at the side of the eyes, right here on the bone. State what's so awful about it. Under the eyes, right here, on the bone. State what's so awful about it. Under the nose, in between the nose and the lip. State what's so awful about it. What do you feel when you look at it? Under the lip, in between the lip and chin, in the crease. What's so awful about it? What do you feel when you look at it? Really go there. Collarbone points, right under the collarbones. Put your fingers like this. State what's so awful about it. Really go there. Step right into the pain of it. Okay, and then side of the rib. So you're going to take your fingers kind of like this, and you're just going to kind of right around where you, like the bra strap would be for a woman. State what's so awful about your problem. What's so awful about the person? What are you hanging on to that's so awful? Now, take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just try and get in touch with that feeling again. Most people will notice that the intensity of the feeling has gone down, if not disappeared. Usually it takes 2 rounds to get something really down to a 1 or a 0. So just take stock of your body. You'll probably notice there's a little bit of a flow happening, which is a good thing. Now let's go back up to the top of the head. Go there again. What's really so awful about it? Eyebrow points. What's so awful about it? Side of the eye. What's so awful about this? Just really say it. Really go there. What makes this so painful, so awful, so scary, whatever your deal is? So unacceptable. Under the eye, what makes this so awful? Really connect with it. Under the nose, what makes this so awful? Under the lips, in the crease in between the chin and the lips, get in touch with your pain. What makes this so awful? Collarbone points. What makes this so awful? Could even just be a phrase you have stuck in your head. Side of the ribs. What makes this so awful? Now take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Now, if you've been doing this along with me, I imagine you're feeling pretty different. You know, this is kind of a surface way to do EFT. There are much deeper ways to do EFT. But this alone, if you are in a bout of anxiety, you can use this to deal with your anxiety. Just go right into the thing that's scaring you while you're tapping, and you will find that the anxiety level goes down, down, down. And if you go actually to my website, bodymindtapping.com, I have an entire guide on how to use EFT for anxiety that's completely free. So you can just go to the homepage and then look for the guides on the homepage, and it'll open right into the one for anxiety. But this is also a way, if you know that you have taken on the karma of another person, if you know that you have kind of permitted someone's stuff to gain credence over your life, credence over how you view yourself. You know, sometimes you can just get so spent on somebody else's stuff that you just don't have any energy left to even heal from it. And that is where something like tapping really just bypasses all of the mechanisms and moves that out of your nervous system so that you can meditate more easily. And it's also just a way that you can systematically start going through your life and cleaning yourself up, becoming the person you want to become. Are there any questions about that? I know some of you might be totally new to that. And I'm happy to answer any questions about it if you want to unmute yourself and ask. Okay. Well, now that you have this energy freed up in you, I'd like us to go back into meditation. And because I want you to notice the difference. I think you're going to find that meditation is actually much easier after you've done a couple rounds of tapping on something that's genuinely relevant to you. So, eyes open, attention at the forehead and crown, and we're just going to begin to breathe. And you're going to be right there with the breath, wholeheartedly given to the breath, all your attention on the breath. And when the mind comes in to take you away, you're just going to return to the breath. Let's do it. Can you feel how much easier it is to sit and relax and focus after a couple rounds of tapping? It's like it just turns on the energy flow that usually you have to sit for about 10 minutes to really get to. So this week, I would love it if you would just start noticing some of the things that you've taken on that aren't really yours. You know, some of those things that just aren't yours to even worry about. You know, there are ways to take care of somebody without constantly being in a state of concern for them. In fact, one of the best things that you can give to anybody is your faith in them. You know, your faith that they're going to pull through, that they're going to be okay. So even if it's a child, you know, if a child can look into your eyes and see that what you're seeing are the best parts of them and not their problem, that's going to be strengthening to them. So I want you to just start noticing some of the things that you've taken on that you really didn't need to. And I think you should go through them, and I think you should start tapping them out. But I think you should also go and look at my free training on EFT, the free guide on the EFT tapping for anxiety. Because that'll give you some even more in-depth stuff that we can't cover in such a short amount of time. I'm so glad to hear that, Rosalma. It's one of those things that actually makes a huge difference. You know, if you're having trouble falling asleep, it's a great way to just get past whatever it is that's keeping your body from being able to relax. And it's free and it's harmless and you can do it anytime, anywhere. But I'd like you this week to start kind of taking some of those parts of yourself apart. You know, what is it that you're hanging on to that is pulling on your mind on a daily basis, getting into your space while you're just trying to kind of be your authentic self? You know, there's this thing that just keeps pulling on you. Go in and work on those things. Figure out what their core moments are and figure out what was so awful about those moments. First, you can tap on what's so awful in this moment, right? Sometimes you have to do that to even be able to open up and remember what the actual moment where you sort of took on that connection is. But then you do, whenever you can, you want to go back to the moment where it started, or it might be several moments. With siblings, it can be 100 moments, you know, and you just kind of work your way through enough of them. You know, once you've worked your way through enough of them, the rest just sort of fall down. But this is something, there's no limit to what you can do with tapping. But I think it's actually a better technique than recapitulation. I think it works faster. And if you're going to practice meditation and you notice that you're resistant, tap on your resistance. You know, why spend 10 minutes struggling with it? Just tap it out of your nervous system and then start from a higher place. Great, Jimmy. I'm so glad that helped. All right, guys. So I would love it if you would work on that this week. I teach this class every week. You know, it's just little old me. So if I can't for some reason do it on Thursday, I might change the night. And I'll send out an email, but everyone I see here is on my mailing list, so that's great. I will always try and send you a reminder with a Zoom link, so I would love to see you whenever you are able and willing. No worries anytime you can't make it. I do record the classes and post them. It doesn't post your name or your picture or anything like that. They just see me. But so you can watch them if you miss them. But make use of this stuff. I'll be here once a week in one form or another, just offering you whatever I can. Okay? If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to let you all get back to your night.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. It was wonderful that you could come.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great night.